Alrighty, gang, welcome back to the Excerpt. I started like Jerry Seinfeld for a second there. I don't know why. Welcome back to the Gutowski File, starring Stephen Gutowski, who, really lowers his standards every week to come on this show, and I appreciate that about him very, very much. He is the owner, the founder, over at thereload.com, thereload.com. As always, there is a hyperlink in the comments of every platform we do this on, so you can go check that out and consider getting a membership. Stephen, for those of you who can't see and are only listening, is bedecked and bedazzled with Philadelphia Phillies gear. Is there a game today? What is going on?
They're just the best team in baseball. That's all.
Oh, is that
no
what it is?
Big deal.
All right, so we can come back to that at the end, but we have eschewed the evils of sports talk at the beginning of the show because some people, they freak out and throw their phone out the window when it starts. So this week, we are discussing an article just came out a couple days ago over at The Reload, authored by our very own Stephen Gutowski. The headline is, Reformers Prevail at NRA Meeting, Elect New Leadership. That sounds very hopeful, sir. Talk to us about what's going on.
Yeah, so I was the only reporter at the NRA's board meeting over on Monday, actually.
That's shocking.
Yeah, I mean, there were lots of reporters at the annual meeting when Donald Trump spoke, and I was at that as well. But the board meeting is when the actual changes to the NRA itself took place, and they are rather significant changes. The reformers won 3 of the top 4 leadership positions at the NRA, including the executive vice president CEO role, which was formerly held by Wayne LaPierre before he was found guilty of, or found to have taken $5.5 million from the organization to spend on personal expenses like private flights. So pretty significant change in power at the NRA over the weekend here.
Now, this is the first time hearing about this, so if you're not watching, I had a staggered face a moment ago because this is potentially, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but this is kind of what we've been hoping for a while. I've been talking about on this show since its inception. Should we be as hopeful as I feel like we should be, Stephen?
Well, if you're a reformer, if you want to see change at the NRA, if you want to see more transparency and you want the old leadership to be pushed out of the way, then that's exactly what happened. And
that's outstanding.
It's what's likely to happen down the road. You've already seen the new executive vice president. His name is Doug Hamlin. He ran publications at the NRA, so the magazines that people get when they sign up for an NRA membership. He's run that for quite a long time, and so he ran on a reform platform. He was nominated by the reform board candidates, and he won against actually a much more famous person, Ronnie Barrett, the inventor of the Barrett rifle, the 50 cal rifle, was put up by the nominating committee, and Doug Hamlin beat him out, and he has promised his first comments after that were to me, which we published over at The Reload. You can read them in full if you want to go over there. But essentially promised a new NRA with more transparency and a mission to bring back the members who have left.
So we've talked about the NRA almost ad nauseum. I'm sure some people are annoyed by the frequency of NRA talk here, but I think it's critically important. As we have said before in this space, they're the 800-pound gorilla. They are the giant. There is no other organization or even coalition of organizations, as great as they are, all the other ones, they don't come close to the legislative power, to the fundraising power of the NRA. So this is potentially very good news. I think we talked about this previously, but the actual board, the executive board, those highest positions in the NRA are not voted on by all the NRA members, right? They have to be voted on by the actual existing board, and that was sort of it sort of prevented real reform in the past. So are there a bunch of guys that used to be Wayne LaPierre acolytes that are now seeing the light, or what should we read from this?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly seems that way. I think we probably talked about this going into the meeting. I believe, but at least a week or two ago, the reformers won. There's this slate of candidates that ran in the NRA board elections on a reform platform. There are 5 of them, and they all won, which was somewhat surprising and also positive news if you want to see internal reform at the NRA. But obviously that's only 5 people on a 76-member board. Something that people have critiqued in the past is how large the board is and how that makes it difficult to implement change there. But obviously, the most of these reform candidates won with 35 to 36 votes, so they had to get those votes from people who weren't previously publicly critical of leadership or Win LaPierre or the path that the NRA has taken over the last 5 years. So it does seem like there were efforts made by those reformers to bring in more people who are already on the board, and it seems to have worked. They won three of the four top positions. The president is the only one that they lost. That was former Congressman Bob Barr won that over Owen Buzz Mills, who runs Gun Sight. For anybody who's really into firearms training, probably knows Gun Sight out in Arizona. But
Sure.
he was, and actually, Buzz Mills was the only really vocal public reformer who was put up for one of these leadership roles, and he lost to Barr. So there's some, look, the reformers are the people who put up all these candidates. The five people who won those elections are the ones who backed guys like Doug Hamlin. But the people who won weren't necessarily speaking out in public, at least
Mhm.
beforehand. So, obviously, what matters is what actually happens, what actually changes, the policies they put in place or the personnel that they change moving forward. So, I think that's what you really want to watch for. These elections signal that that's likely to come, but that many significant changes haven't happened yet. There have been one or two, which we could talk about if you want, but yeah, you still want to look down the line to make sure they actually follow through.
So, could you maybe break down for those of us who don't know, myself included, the makeup of the board? I think people think of a boardroom, corporate boardroom, and there's like, 15 people, the CMO and the CEO and whatever. But on their board, does everyone have an equal sort of amount of leverage or power or voting ability on that 76 member? I think is what you said. Board, or
Um,
are these core people generally the day to day decision makers? I know there's some people that are sort of celebrities on the board, and I don't know how involved they
yeah,
actually are. Could you explain that to us?